Veritas Aquitus by Bones Boy 15, Chapter 36, Homecoming. When Naruto awoke, he did not find himself back in his team's room. Hell, he was pretty sure he wasn't even on Beacon's campus. This thought was confirmed when he started to sit up, only to find that he was restricted by several thick leather straps that went across his body and kept his arm bound to his sides. What the fuck? Naruto muttered, his brow furrowed in bewilderment. He craned his head up and around in order to try and get a better view of the layout. There was an overhead light that flickered obnoxiously, and the steel walls were covered in grime. Looking past his feet, he saw another grimy wall with a door in the middle, with a sliding port on the outside. Okay, seriously, what the fuck? Naruto thought while he jerked around in an effort to break out of his binds. As the semblance slowly built up, he grit his teeth and tried to force himself free. To his astonishment, the binds that kept him atop the table seemed to soak in the aura that Naruto expelled as his semblance's power grew. Rather than wasting time testing the bind's limits, Naruto stopped and closed his eyes. Alright, keep your cool, Naruto. Think it through. Look, Naruto took a deep breath and his eyes screwed shut. The last thing I remember is being with Yang, and while we have joked about tying down each other, I highly doubt this is her doing. For one thing, I still have clothes on, unless that's part of her game, which is doubtful, but still a possibility, though, considering my surroundings. Naruto opened his eyes and glared around the room again. Yeah, okay, definitely not Yang's attempt to cheer me up with roleplay. Honestly, I don't know if I would totally be up for that. Old Toad would never let me live. Oh, right, dead. Naruto closed his eyes and grimaced. I really need to think about that later. I need to figure out when the hell did where the hell did I get there? Where the fuck I am. The window on the metal door slid open with a grating squeal that Naruto was sure would annoy the hell out of any Faunus 10 times it did him. Through the small window, two dark eyes appeared and were accompanied by a thin trail of smoke that drifted up. Awake now? Asuma, where am I? What the hell is going on? Naruto demanded. He struggled against his binds and crawled as his body began to glow. And why the fuck can't I break out of these binds? Calm down, Naruto, Asuma said softly to the blonde. Naruto glared at him with bared teeth, his eyes a bright red instead of their usual sparkling blue. And why the fuck should I? Because if you don't, I'll have to knock you out again, Asuma said flatly. He puffed on his cigarette, and the smoke trail moved to the opposite side of the man's head. His finger rubbed at his eye, and Naruto got the feeling he was being flipped off discreetly. On the flight here, you woke up and didn't react well to being taken from Beacon. We're not in Beacon. Calm down, Asuma reiterated firmly. Listen, I think talking to him through the door is doing more harm than good, Asuma, drawled an unseen male from the other side of the door. Commander, given his hostilities on the trip over, an elderly voice protested from out of sight. Naruto stiffened at the title that was used. Being the first line of defense that it was, Kon was not a village run by civilians. The citizens ran the village of Kon, and civilians' opinions were of little concern in the grand scheme of things. Hearing that the top dog was outside his door, he was even more willing to calm down, if only to see the village's leader and get answers directly. Honorary advisors? What a surprise, the other voice sarcastically chirped. I don't believe I invited you to this location. Well, but we were only, an elderly woman sputtered, only to be cut off. In fact, I do believe upon taking office that I told you as clearly as I could to, and I quote, fuck off and die. See here, fuck off and die. The younger man's voice reiterated. The council was abolished during my master's time as the fourth commander, and I personally abolished your position upon taking the fifth seat. So, now that our little history lesson is over, Asuma, would you kindly escort these honorary members of the village out of my building? Naruto watched the small visible part of Asuma's eyes glisten gleefully, and a sharp clack of a sandal was heard as it shifted into place. The protesting elder's voice swiftly decreased in volume as they were led away from the cell he was in. The window on the door was slid shut swiftly, a feat Naruto didn't think was possible with how rusty it appeared, and the heavy locked door was audibly undone with a loud click. The door was pushed open, and Naruto's dwindling rage was promptly snuffed out. Standing in the doorway was a tall, lanky man with spiky silver hair, a thin, neat scar ran over his left eye. The eye in question was black, which contrasted greatly to the warm chocolate colored eye that rested in the right socket. That was as far as describing his facial features went, because of the cloth mask that seemed molded to his face from the middle of his nose down to his neck. The man wore the same attire Asuma chose to wear, with a few variations. Gloves with metal plates along the back were pulled over the man's hands, and tape was wound tightly around the neck, the end of the man's pants, which were tucked into the man's combat sandals. His olive flag jacket was missing a few pouches that Asuma had, and had a few bronze bars stamped into the collar. Finally, wrapped around his head to keep his unusual silver hair from his eyes was a heavy band with a blank metal plate on it. Kakashi. Naruto blinked. Kakashi's eyes closed and seemingly curved upwards, as if he were smiling. His left hand vacated his pocket and lifted up in greeting. Yo! Kakashi's carefree tone and his slouched posture greatly differed from the commanding voice that had been heard at the door. He walked over to the wall on Naruto's left and tapped a few visible screws in a unique sequence. The bands that held Naruto in place were quickly retracted into the table, and Naruto slowly sat up, rubbing his red right wrist. The blonde kept his attention on his former teacher. Where this, Naruto, it's a specially made room crafted in the very heart of the commander's office. Kakashi sighed and let his head hang slightly as he faced the teenager. A room that was meant to hold you should you do something you'd regret. What do you mean? Naruto asked. He examined the room again. No windows, one door, and a lifted bed to rest on. It was a bed that could keep him in place even when he had his semblance on the rise. Thanks to those weird anti-aura bands, he shuddered that even hospitals had windows. The ramen incident. Naruto blinked and looked back at his old teacher. Naruto, do you even remember what happened on that day? Kakashi asked. Naruto shook his head and the older man shuddered. You know what? That's probably for the best. Ibiki can't look at you the same way anymore. Who's Ibiki? Exactly. Now come on, I'll walk you back to your apartment, Kakashi said with a concealed grin thrown over his shoulder. You need to shower. 3 days in a dark hole does not leave for a clean aroma. That's not exactly my fault, Naruto deadpanned as he followed his sensei out of the room. A minute ticked by before he caught up to what he said. Wait a minute, 3 days? You were very unreasonable when you're under its control, Naruto. Under what's control, Kakashi? Where am I? Where's my team? Why aren't we in Beacon? Naruto stopped before he ran into the halted form of the older man. Kakashi had turned halfway to face him, and Naruto's anger, which was slowly bubbling its way back up to the surface, quickly retreated at the cold, detached look forced down on him. In front of him right now was no longer his beloved teacher from his days at Kon Academy, but the fifth commander assigned to watch over and run the village at the behest of Akuo's leaders. He stared down at Naruto like the blonde was a child throwing a tantrum. It was not a look he had ever seen on his teacher's face, and it was not one he wanted to be under ever again. Are you done? Kakashi asked. Naruto swallowed a big gulp of air and his tongue turned to lead. He nodded stiffly. Yes, sir. Good. Kakashi turned forward and resumed his stride. It took only a second for Naruto to be roused from his shaken state, and he quickly rushed back up to walk alongside his old teacher. Kakashi let his hands rest behind the small of his back, resting over the collapsed form of his weapon while they continued down the hallway. Now, I cannot say anything about where you are precisely, as it would diminish the purpose of the location if you were to ever escape your binds. However unlikely that would be. Sasuke, Kurama, and the Fog student are currently preoccupied with preparations for an assignment I gave them, and only to them. They're my team, Naruto blurted out in protest. A raised hand stopped anything more that might have been said by the whiskered blonde. As proud as I am to hear you say that, part of being a leader is knowing how to trust your subordinates to take care of themselves, Kakashi said. He sent a kinder, much more familiar eye smile at the blonde. After all, you're still one of my cute little students, no matter how tall you get or how many gray hairs you grow. Kakashi, you have gray hair, Naruto deadpanned. So, in case you've forgotten, Naruto, I'm Kakashi Hatake. I have the hair of an old man, but the beauty of a young maiden. he said cheerfully. The two eyes opened and leveled the blonde with a stern look. In all seriousness, though, Naruto, this is a trial for them more so than it is for you. Keep that in mind. Fine, but that doesn't mean I have to like it, Naruto grunted. I'd be more upset if you did, the village leader said with an appropriative nod. While you've been away, there have been several changes in con structures, as have there been in our sister villages. Vacuo's been poisoned by the elders and minor councils for decades now, unintentionally, I'm sure, but still, the damage is painfully obvious. Your childhood circumstances, for example. Naruto grimaced and reached up to gently grab a hold of the rings that dangled from his neck. He didn't like to dwell on the past for too long, for good reason. There were more tears than smiles. I hate when you get all serious, Kakashi. What's that even mean? Naruto groaned and scratched his head. Kakashi stopped at the bottom of a stairwell and turned to face Naruto fully. His stern leader glare was back, and Naruto struggled not to will beneath it. I will not cut corners with you, Naruto. Since news of Jiraiya's death has reached us, we've been preparing for war. We even revoked the age limit on enrollment to the academy. His words made Naruto's eyes widen. Before the whiskered blonde could say anything, Kakashi held his hand up to keep him quiet. Assured he had Naruto's full attention, his hand dropped back to rest behind him. I know it's wrong, and it's a horrible thing to think about, but I'd rather have children that can defend themselves in the worst case scenario than innocents who had no chance from the get go. I swear to you now, as I swore to the parents of the village, they will never see a battlefield as long as I can help it. I hold you to it, Commander. Naruto nodded with a frown on his face. See that you do. Kakashi nodded back. He turned on his heel and proceeded to go up the stairs. Naruto still followed behind him. With your godfather gone, our connection to the Miyaboku Wanderers and our information network in general is weakened. He may not have shared who his contacts around Remnant are with you, but if he has, please let me know. During our trip, we stopped to a lot of red light districts, brothels, and bars. Naruto said softly, "Start there. Anyone who's avoiding his name should be worth noting. I never met any of his contacts, but he knew that he." Kakashi stopped for a third time and looked back down at Naruto. Naruto, he said softly, reaching out to put a hand on the teen's shoulders. I'm so sorry for your loss. Lord Jiraiya was. What were you talking about earlier? You said something about me being under its control. What control are you talking about? Naruto asked without meeting Kakashi's gaze. While he was grateful for the words and support, he still wasn't really ready to talk about it. Hell, he could hardly believe he was, wherever they were for the 3 days. When it felt like only one night had gone by, Kakashi seemed to understand this and retracted his hand. They started walking again, ascending the stairwell in silence for a good 3 flights. Just now, deep underground. Just how deep underground are we anyway? Naruto wondered as they started up the fourth flight, with each step echoing in his head and his worry for his teammates growing. Naruto almost snapped when Kakashi suddenly stopped halfway up the flight. I'm going to have to blindfold you, Naruto. This is as far as any detainee has gotten without being caught. Kakashi turned and offered a black band he pulled from one of his hidden pouches on his black jacket. I've asked a lot of your patience today, and I know that it is waning, but please trust me, I do this for your safety. Blindfolding someone halfway up a flight of stairs who knows how many feet underground. Yeah, my safety is obviously what you're worried about, Naruto deadpanned. He still complied, knowing how he could easily be ordered or, forbid, glared at. Seriously, Kakashi's glare was on par with Yang's yelling, with only the latter winning marginally. I have promised, Naruto, this will all make sense soon, Kakashi assured him as he put a hand on the boy's shoulder. Then a cold feeling overcame the blonde, along with a lot of pressure. It was as if someone suddenly tossed him into the ocean with weights on his legs. Perfect Sage, though I miss you, I do not miss your training exercises. Naruto thought as he banished that particular memory. He was almost shark bait. Then, as suddenly as it came, the feeling vanished with it. It went all of Naruto's energy and the air in his lungs. He fell to his hands and knees, gulping down that sweet life gas vigorously, while Kakashi rubbed his back. Sorry, Naruto, the village leader apologized. It's disorienting the first time for everyone. You'll be a little lightheaded for a while. Trust me, I speak from experience. Are you going to hold that against me forever? Because I have told you that it was totally not my fault. The voice of a newcomer was muffled and as curious as he was, Naruto couldn't find the strength to remove his visual hindrance. If this was anything what it was like to not be blessed with with ever increasing durability and strength, Naruto was so grateful to whatever powers that be he wasn't normal. Yes, just as I am sure it wasn't the Lord Fourth's fault that his semblance gave us a damn heart attack every time he used it to accidentally surprise us. Kakashi's deadpan response would have made Naruto laugh, but he was still trying to breathe. Huh, yeah, wait, you actually had heart attacks? It was so hard to tell with how professional you were. Fuck you, you good for nothing klutz. Ah, you know I love you, Kakabaka. You're my cute little brother. There was a loud crash and a glow and a following groan. Ow. Klutz? Naruto asked once he got back to his feet and could breathe normally again. Kakashi, what the hell was that? Where are we? Can I take this stupid thing off now? You may remove the cloth, Naruto. Naruto did so as soon as his old teacher said the word remove. He found himself in the village leader's office, a place he'd been many times in his youth to speak with his beloved and now deceased grandfather. The decor had hardly changed, though there were now 5 pictures above the leader's desk instead of the previous 4. Naruto's eyes lingered on the 4th picture momentarily, taking in the intense seriousness that had overcome his father's face when he got his picture taken. You know, he'd been proud of you, kid. Naruto jumped when a hand of inorganic material patted his shoulder. The owner of the arm was a scarred man with a good portion of the left side of his face covered. He was someone Naruto held dear to heart, even if he had to be away for long portions of time. Hell, this was the man who'd gotten him started on pranking in the first place. Obito! Naruto grinned before clasping his hand around the older man's old false one. A quick bro hug was shared between the two. When they parted, Naruto continued to smile at the older man. How have you been? Where have you been? It's been a few years. How have I been? Kid, how have you been? Obito asked, his smile slipping and becoming a frown. I'm not back in town for 3 minutes, and I hear you're only now awake. Naruto's smile faltered and his eyes dropped. I've been okay. He's been suffering from the Uzumaki curse, Obito. The 2 spiky-haired males looked at Kakashi, who taking his seat behind his desk. The white-haired man gestured to the chair set opposite him. Naruto, this may surprise you, so please sit. Naruto blinked, looked back at the man he considered his pseudo-uncle before he took the offered seat. Obito moved to lean against the edge of Kakashi's desk, careful not to disturb the few photographs set there by the commander, and crossed his arm. Kakashi interlaced his hands in front of his masked face. Tell me, Naruto, what do you know about your family? They were a clan of nomads who stayed within the boundaries of Bakuo. They didn't worry about settling because they could handle the grim and preferred to be on the move rather than worry about starting up defensive positions in one place, Naruto said, reciting what he could from memory about Bakuo's nomadic clans. Good, but do you know why they chose to brave the grim on a daily basis? Why they didn't join Bakuo or form their own settlement? Kakashi asked. Naruto shook his head. The silver-haired man looked at Obito, who shrugged before he looked back at his student. That would be due to the Uzumaki family semblance. Huh? It's not a semblance in a traditional sense, Obito was quick to add. It's rare, but you know how some traits happen to follow a family such as hair or eye color for generations? Well, this was a small trait that also happened to follow the family, but more of an internal trait than an external trait. So, that's why you call it the Uzumaki curse instead, Naruto muttered. It's a negative trait. It's not negative per se. It just happens to kick in around the worst time for an Uzumaki. Generally, when they're under great stress or emotional anguish. Now, that's not an excuse for you to use, Kakashi said. Naruto nodded with a somber look on his face. Kakashi leaned forward. From what your mother told us and what Jiraiya learned over time he spent with you, was your family's curse tended to amplify an individual's semblance. What do you mean, make it stronger? Naruto frowned. How's that a bad thing? Imagine you've just witnessed your team get slaughtered by Grim Naruto. Obito cut in. He rubbed his arm gently for a moment before he looked back at Naruto. Imagine you watched your most treasured friend and allies fall. Tell me, what would you do? I'd kill the Grim, Naruto muttered. He thought about the offered scenario and clenched his fist. Probably be so mad that I'd push my semblance as far as I could go, to do it as fast as I could so I could put them to rest. But then after the Grim were destroyed, what if you couldn't stop? Obito asked. What if you kept raging, kept attacking anything in sight, and all the while your semblance continued to grow in power until finally you stopped? Forever? Is that the curse? Naruto asked softly, his eyes wide. An insatiable bloodlust? It doesn't have to be bloodlust, Naruto, Kakashi said. Emotional turmoil in general, or just a lot of stress causes the semblance to act out and flare up. Negative emotions would just bring Grim to the location and allow the semblance use. Then it would go amok from there. Until death, Naruto concluded somberly. He closed his eyes. That's how my mother died, isn't it? Yes, Kakashi nodded while Obito looked down. The night you were born, we were attacked by the Fourth War for the first time. The leader isolated your parents from the village. From what we learned in the post-battle investigation, your father was severely injured and Kushina was consumed by the curse while you were held hostage. Naruto's hands tightened on the arms of his chair. So, I was abducted, and they were manipulated. Naruto, look at me, Kakashi said firmly. He waited until the blonde looked at him again. You were a baby. There was nothing you could do but cry. If anything, it was because of you that we found the battlefield at all. On a side note, you had a hell of a set of lungs on you. I think I still have problems with this ear, Obito said while pointing at his covered ear. Naruto looked at him and cracked a small smile. The older man grinned back at him. Are you sure that wasn't from all the scolding you've had over the years? Kakashi asked dryly. Obito fell over and a cloud of depression could almost be seen drifting off of the man while he drew circles on the floor with his robotic arm. Such a mean little bro, Obito complained. Tough love, Obito. It's all tough love, Kakashi cheerfully informed him. Naruto chuckled and rubbed at his eyes with the back of his hand. He missed the quick look the older man shared as he did. When his arm lowered, Obito was back leaning against Kakashi's desk, while the commander had started to dig around in his desk. A second later, and a set of keys were tossed Naruto's way. I've been holding on to these since you left. I know you wanted it renovated and clean for someone else to move in, well, but we'll always have a place for our own. Kakashi said, his eyes closed in the usual smiling manner. Go home. Think on what I've said. And for Ohm's sake, take a shower, man. Obito waved his organic hand in front of his face. You smell like the worst case of afterglow. That's... He locked me up somewhere for 3 days, Naruto exclaimed, pointing a finger at Kakashi, who retreated to hide behind a certain book. Naruto's eyes twitched. Kakashi pulled a Sasuke, or has Sasuke been pulling a Kakashi? Son of a bitch. Excuses. Obito turned his head away and pointed at the door. Be gone from our sight, citizen. Naruto scowled at them and walked out, grumbling over how it wasn't his fault he stank and how much he'd rather be at Beacon hanging out with his girlfriend. Once the blonde left, Obito dropped his playful facade and frowned. He stepped forward and looked over the village. His inorganic hand rested behind him while he put a hand on the window. Kakashi, he began softly. Do you think telling Naruto how we found his parents was wise? He's now a huntsman in training, Obito. If she has her way, he'll either be a huntsman before the second year even starts or worse, Kakashi replied, not looking up from his book once. He turned the page and exhaled softly through his nose. He'll be dead. Then let's pray that when his team returns, we find something we can use to delay her wishes, Obito said softly. He turned around and walked back to his longtime friend's desk. Speaking of, has any word been sent on the progress? No, still nothing. I hope it's just the radio silence, but Kakashi sighed and set his book down. He looked over at a picture of himself with 4 younger students. Naruto and Kurama had their arms over each other's shoulders, giving each other bunny ears, while Sasuke had his arm crossed and looked away from the camera stubbornly. While between Naruto and Sasuke was a happy Sakura giving the camera a victory sign, and Kakashi stood behind them, all with his hands on Naruto and Sasuke's heads, ruffling their hair and his eyes closed. The commander of Kanon smiled gently behind his mask. I can't help but worry, he said. They are my precious students. Naruto sighed as he shut the shower off and grabbed a towel to wrap around his waist. He'd needed that more than he thought he did. The shower was more of a stress reliever than it was a time to wash his body. He stepped out of the shower once the water had fully stopped, with water still dripping from his hair and running down from his head. Naruto whipped away the fog in his bathroom mirror and investigated the marks on his face again. You were held hostage. The words repeated in Naruto's head, and he frowned while three fingers ran across his cheek. That only cemented his belief that the marks were some sort of scarring, perhaps left by the one that abducted him. Naruto shook his head, unintentionally splattering droplets on the mirror and walls. He was just going to get himself worked up if he kept thinking about it. Naruto dug around in his bathroom cabinet before he found a duplicate of his old toothbrush still in the packaging. Naruto chuckled and ripped the utensil out, lathered it with toothpaste, and began scrubbing away at his teeth for a good few minutes while his mind drifted from one subject to another. These thoughts were generally focused on either his team or his girlfriend, recalling Kakashi's earlier words to not worry about the former. He spat out the toothpaste and wiped away any residue with his formerly waistbound towel. What? Being a bachelor and living alone had its perks, and Naruto really didn't care for modesty. Walking out of the restroom and using his towel to finish drying his hair, Naruto looked around his small apartment. A fond smile crossed his face as he looked at the few markings made into the wall. Being the runt of the class, he always took time each morning to measure how much he'd grown. Stopped after Erosenin and I came back, Naruto said softly, his smile becoming sad. Naruto put his hand on the wall and closed his eyes. The day he returned to Kon was one of the most bittersweet memories he had. Yes, he came home for his last year of Kon Academy, but that was also the day he'd met and was almost robbed by Emerald. I should call Yang, Naruto thought as he opened his eyes. Up and disappearing on his girlfriend after sharing an emotional night was probably not a smart move, but it wasn't exactly his fault, and thinking about his ex-girlfriend was one of the last things he wanted to do, but at least thinking of her always made him think of Yang. Coming to the conclusion that he was thinking too much and doing too little, Naruto walked to his room and tossed his towel off in the corner. He didn't really care where it landed and was more focused on finding his scroll. Upon finding the scroll in the sitting room of all places, Naruto was hindered by making the call when Obito suddenly walked into his apartment. Hey kiddo, feel in bed. Oh, for the love of Naruto, put some pants on, damn it! You're the one barging into my apartment, Obito. Who walks around naked in their apartment? I do, you jackass. Why? Why would you do such a thing? Because it's my apartment. That makes no sense. It makes perfect sense. Just get dressed. You get out. Ah, it was great to be home. End of chapter 36. Veritas Aquitus by Bones Boy 15, chapter 36.5. Beautiful day. It was a wonderful bright day at Beacon Academy. Team Ruby had gone off to investigate the Academy's pool, and Team Juniper were at Vale's hottest arcade. Nora was determined to beat her high score. Team Nox had the line going off with either of them to watch the festivals of the Vacuo's Big Five Intermediate Tournament. It had been renamed due to a new sponsor, a candy bar of all things. However, that wasn't until later in the evening, so the guys decided to enjoy the sunny day and talk about their academies during a picnic. Yeah, that Karen chick was almost as creepy as Hinata Hyuga. A shorter, more compact version of Kurama said thoughtfully before he finished off his beef sandwich. Naruto, whose head was even rounder than before compared to his small body, looked at him oddly while he grabbed another wrapped sandwich from the picnic basket. Which one was Sonata again? He asked. The Hyuga in our grade, dumbass. Kurama Sasuke. Yes, he too had a big head, but was like that before the animation shifted. Deadpanned, Naruto stared at them blankly, and they simultaneously clapped their hands over their faces. Kurama recovered first, using the pause to snatch Naruto's sandwich and ignore his teammates' indignant squawk. Lavender eyes, baggy clothes, always had short hair with them. What do you call those straight princess bangs? Kurama tilted his head in thought and ripped the sandwich out of its wrapping. He took a bite out of it. You know they got their own name because they're used in those pervy comics that Sasuke has under his bed. Sasuke choked on the rest of his everybody loves grape soda. He forced a swallow and then glared at the foxily grinning teen. You swore you never spoke of those. Kurama shrugged and took another bite of his sandwich. I lied. Oh, you're speaking of a hime cut? That style was made popular back before the war by some Western nobles of Vacuo. Haku, who looked absolutely adorable with his enormous cranium, said helpfully. He shrugged at the odd look sent his way What? You have your hobbies and I have mine. Don't judge. Fair enough. How was she creepy? Naruto asked, looking back at Kurama. He grabbed an energy drink that Sasuke reached out for and popped the tab. He smirked at the scowl on his best friend's face before he took a bite of the sandwich Haku handed him. Well, there's her X-ray semblance that I'm certain she abused constantly because of Ino's peer pressure. Then there was the whole random passing out whenever she passed us in the hallway, the constant blushing and finger fidgeting whenever someone tried to talk to her, and finally, the nail in the coffin was that she stalked you for most of the academy. Karma answered nonchalantly. The whiskered blonde nodded as he took a drink from his aluminum can. Karma smirked and counted down with his fingers from three before he pointed at Naruto. As predicted, Naruto promptly spat out what he was drinking. Consequently, he doused both Haku and Sasuke in a bizarre amount of backwash and a good portion of sticky energy drink. Both pretty boys were unamused, but Karma laughed hard. She stalked me? Naruto asked, wide-eyed and suddenly feeling the need to take 15 showers for almost all of the academy. What? How? Wait, you still didn't know? Kurama asked before he looked at Sasuke. You didn't tell him? She stopped during the last year and started dating Inuzaka. I figured there was no harm, no foul, the teen grumbled as he wiped Naruto's spray from his face. That is so not cool. She stalked me. Did you guys know this whole time? Naruto asked, looking between his two friends. They nodded and the blonde gaped before he grabbed his head. What the fuck, guys? I have to side with Naruto on this one, Haku said with a nod. He frowned at his teammates. Actually, everyone knew. It was so painfully obvious she liked you, so no one did anything, figuring that she'd either nut up or shut up. Sasuke grumbled, still sour from being used as target practice. You guys are supposed to be my friends. Why didn't you say anything? Why didn't Sakura say anything? Naruto asked. Not sure, Kurama shrugged. Personally, I thought it was a riot. Fuck you, fuzzbutt. As much as I'd love to, I'm pretty sure that Yang would try to kill me. Same, Sasuke shrugged. That and again, I figured no harm, no foul. It wasn't like she broke into your house when you weren't. The three boys suddenly became very quiet. Haku dried off and back to eating and enjoying the revealing conversation, looking around confused. Is something wrong? He asked. The wave mission, Sasuke muttered. We were only gone for a month, but you don't think she'd actually... Kurama trolled off. He shook his head. No, there's no way. She could have... I mean, your apartment had security, right, Naruto? Your anti-intruder defenses of Doom were all set up, weren't they, Naruto? I think I know why all the boxers I left behind were missing now. Naruto's eyes were wide and his eyes were wrapped around his body. He shuddered and pulled his knees in. Haku, Sasuke, and Kurama stared worriedly at their team leader as he began to rock back and forth. So unclean. I think you'd be wise to never have another picnic. Sasuke deadpan. Yep, Haku nodded, using a mirror to dump the basket and the remaining food into the garbage can 2 feet away. Good call, Kurama agreed. Stalker took my underwear. Naruto began to suck on his thumb. It was then and there that Team Nox decided that picnics were a thing of the past. A hand slammed down next to Naruto's head. The sudden impact caused him to snort away. His head flung up, uncaring for the drool that was at the corner of his mouth, and he began to look around frantically. He examined his arms, body, and legs, patting them down, and sighing in relief when he found they were normally sized. Naruto, are you okay? Obiti looked worriedly at the blonde boy seated beside him. They were at a small restaurant waiting for their check. Obito had decided to treat the teen as an apology for walking in unannounced, even though he still thought that walking around naked, no matter where you were, was weird. Yeah. Is he not around? Naruto asked as he resumed checking his surroundings. Even looked under the cushion of his seat. Hinata, you mean Hiyashi's kid? Obito asked when Naruto nodded and continued to look around worriedly. Lifting the nearby table, the biotic-armed, one-eyed man shook his head. Nah, she's still over in Bakuo. She's part of the medics in training. Thank God, Naruto said in relief as he slumped back down in his seat. My boxers are safe. Are you sure you're okay? Obito looked at the tower of empty bowls and hummed. You know, I think that wasabi ramen isn't agreeing with your stomach. What? Naruto snapped his head up and glared at the older man. He pointed at Obito dramatically. You shame my parents and my honor by even fathoming such blasphemy? Okay, yeah, no more wasabi ramen for you, Obito deadpanned. Ever. End of chapter 36.5.